Hello everyone, my name is Nelida Silvero. I am a research scientist at the Institute Research, but the work I want to share with you was developed during my PhD back in Brazil at the University of São Paulo. So the name of this talk is Sensing Technologies for Characterizing and Monitoring Soil Functions, and I want to give you an overview about how to use different kind of sensors and how to integrate to obtain information on soil properties to understand soil functions. And soil functions were defined in several ways, but we here can understand as goods and services that humans can get from soils, or that goods and services that soils can provide to humans or for humans' welfare. For example, we have capacity of soil to provide biomass, to be a habitat for microorganisms, to store, filter, and transforming nutrients and waters, to be an archaeological reservoir, because we know that soil holds a huge archaeological history. Also to be a source of raw materials for constructions, for example. And finally, and one of the most important functions of the soil in the last years is its capacity for being a carbon pool, or for storing carbon into soil to help mitigating climate change. However, there are key facts or issues that we need to consider about soil functions, and one of the most important is that soil functions are very difficult to measure or to directly measuring, and that's why physical, chemical, and biological soil properties are usually used as indicators. And there we have another problem, that sometimes the measuring of these properties, or despite the huge improvement in methods and protocols or techniques for measuring these properties, are still very expensive and time consuming. And that's why, especially in developing countries, we have a lack or a scarcity of reliable soil data or good soil data based on soil properties. And this is one of the reasons why we are advocating for the use of, or for the integration of, several kind of sensors or alternative technologies, from remote sensing, soil spectroscopy, or proximal sensing sensors in the field, because they are more effective or more efficient, can be considered as more efficient ways to obtain several kind of data from soils, and this can help us to improve the incomplete soil database, or incomplete regional or global databases. And we also are seeing, at least in the soil science community, a huge interest in integrating this kind of information with soils or sensors. So if you, in Scopus, I made a quick research to understand how are the research trends in these topics, and we are seeing a huge increase in the literature and papers and research trying to relate soils and remote sensing, soils and proximal sensing, soil functions, and spectroscopy or digital soil mapping, for example. So this is a proof that the interest in sensing technologies and integrating with soil is increasing a lot in the last few years, and will increase a lot in the next coming years. This information collected from sensors can be used in three ways. You can obtain direct information from the sensor and use this information about, for example, soil color or soil minerals. You can also obtain indirect information from the soil by using these sensors in models, and you can also collect this information from soil and integrate with other tools or models, for example, crop models, to try to obtain better information about the soils. Information that you can collect from sensors can be in the form of reflectance or absorbance values, dielectric or electromagnetic characteristics, counts per second, or percentage of specific elements. And in the figure in the left, you are seeing that every portion of the electromagnetic spectrum has a sensor that can be used for obtaining soil information or soil properties. For example, In the gamma rays, we have sensors in the gamma rays that operate at different levels of collection, for example, in the field or in the laboratory or in airplanes. The second one is the X-ray region, where you have the X-ray fluorescence. This is a portable element that can be used for collect elemental composition of the soil. This can be used in the lab or directly in the field. The third one is the LIBS, and the spectral region comprising the visible, the near infrared, the middle infrared, where you have different kind of sensors in the field, in drones, in satellites. So this can give us information about the spectral characteristics of the soil that can be related with with a lot of soil properties. You can also have the dielectric, the sensors in the radar or in the microwave regions, where you can relate especially to soil moisture and soil temperature. And here I bring a table relating the specific soil properties with these sensors. For example, you have soil texture, which is the distribution of particles in the soil, soil color, soil organic matter, soil organic carbon, pH, minerals, moisture, temperature, nutrients, elements. All of those soil properties you can obtain from different kind of sensors. The best one is soil texture. Soil texture you can obtain from almost all sensors. But a key point to keep in mind here is that not all soil properties can be accurately estimated from sensors. And this is especially important for nutrients, which are related to soil fertility or precision agriculture, because they don't have a specific spectral behavior in the whole electromagnetic spectrum. So they are not, we don't have a physical relationship with the sensor, and that's why the estimation or the prediction of these soil properties or these nutrients, for example, nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, are very low. So their accuracy are low. So it's always important to keep in mind this issue. And because we are here talking a lot about Earth observation, I bring this example to show to you the power of remote sensing images, and how we can use at first to understand the spatial variability of the soil. You have here in the left an image, a true color composition image, and into right you have a synthetic soil image. We called it a synthetic soil image, which was obtained. This is a median reflectance of a time series of a 40 years Landsat image. So we aggregate all those images in a median reflectance or a mean. You can also use the mean reflectance. And this information, just from this information, I can tell you that the areas in dark or brown colors are areas where have more clay, can have more organic matter, has the potential for producing more biomass, or to store more water, or to store more carbon, or to store more nutrients than the areas in light, because the areas in light has less clay and more sand. And just from this image, and I don't need to go to the field to understand this is spatial variability. So this is just an example to show you the power of freely available Earth observation products. Now, soil properties obtained from sensing technologies are now used as indicators of soil functions, and this is the relationship where soil texture, for example, is useful for almost all soil functions that I described earlier, for biomass production, for carbon pool, for storing, filtering, and transforming nutrients. But we have also other important soil properties, for example, properties here in blue and orange. Those properties are more difficult to obtain from sensing technologies, or they can't obtain it from sensors. And that's why the integration is important. The integration with other tools or for measurement from the field. So solid structure, you cannot measure solid structure from sensors. Maybe from topography, tomography, sorry. But for example, species diversity or earthworm abundance is more difficult to measure from sensors. So that's why I always say that we need to integrate all the possible information for understanding these soil functions. Although the primary or the direct information that we can collect from sensor can be useful for understanding soil functions, can be a first step, it's always important to integrate these data sets. And here I bring three examples of three functions from Brazil. The first one is the soil as a biomass producer. Now, agricultural sector is very important for producing food, biomass. And in this example, the authors use satellite images, the one I showed to you earlier, and integrated, they use satellite images to obtaining information on soil properties, and these soil properties were used as inputs in a crop modeling, which is the DESAT here, the Kenegro, to estimate the potential productivity of sugarcane or the potential productivity of soils, the inherent potential productivity of soils to produce sugarcane. And with this is a product, a map. And now, with the integration of this information, we know where are the areas or where are the soils that has an inherent potential for producing more sugarcane or more biomass. These areas in green here. The second example is the soil as a reservoir for water. This property, which is the plant available water, is very difficult to measure, to directly measure. You have a lot of kind of analysis that you need to conduct, but it can estimate it from soil texture, for example. And that's why the authors again use satellite images for obtaining maps of soil properties, and then these soil properties were used as inputs for this modeling, this process-based modeling, which is the SWAP, and estimate the plant available water of these soils. And again, you are seeing here the areas in blue, in dark blue, here and green are the areas where you can have soils that inherently they can store more water. So the plants here will suffer less during extreme events where you don't have rain, for example. And the final one, the last example, of course, about the soil as a carbon pool. As I mentioned it earlier, there's a huge interest in understanding how the soil can help us mitigating climate change, reduce the CO2 in the atmosphere, and the soil has the capacity of acting as a carbon pool and to store more carbon in the soil. And this is an inherent capacity. Not all soils can equally sequester the same amount of carbon, and that's why it is important to understand where are the soils where you have more soil carbon. And in this example, the authors also used satellite images from Landsat, freely available on Google Earth Engine, and used machine learning models to estimate the soil organic carbon stocks in cropland soils for the whole area, for the whole country, and also estimated the uncertainty of this prediction. So you can have how much, you can know how much error do you have in these predictions. And this is important information for understanding how the soil behaves and how the soil can be used for mitigating climate change. So these are the examples I wanted to show to you, and now I am open to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.